Hello everyone, we're here today at HSE University in St. Petersburg and I'm going to take an interview from one girl, Anne, who came all the way from the Netherlands to this cold country to try out Russia and to understand how the life goes here. So let's ask her how it is going so far and if she likes it or not, and of course visit the university itself. So basically, the idea today is to get a bit more, to know a bit more about the university, about the process itself, how to get here, and whether it's like complicated or not, and whether you like it or not.
Yes.
Could you tell us a couple of words about you?
So I am a student from Leiden University in the Netherlands, and I study political science, actually international relations and organizations. And now I'm here in Russia because I also learned Russian in Holland. And yeah, that's why I'm here, because I learned some more Russian and also to learn more about Russian politics and Russian EU relations here at HSE.
So this is your major here?
Well, it's my exchange. But
I mean the topic of
the topic is my major. Yeah, the topic I'm following here is my major.
All right, and why Russia?
Why Russia? Because I think Russia is very fascinating, because it's not quite like Europe, but it's also not quite like Asia. And it has this interesting mix with a very close historical connection to Europe, but it has really its own character. And for me, that makes it really interesting.
And did you speak any Russian before coming here?
I spoke like A2, like a high A1, low A2 level. I took 1 year of courses, only 2 hours a week last year. So I knew the basics, I knew the alphabet, but...
so at least something.
Yeah, at least something, which was helpful, I have to say. Yeah.
All right. How did you get to know that, okay, you're accepted, whether you got a confirmation letter or something?
Well, I'm here via an exchange program from Leiden University. So Leiden University exchanges with HSE. So that means that I had to apply via a motivational letter and my GPA through my own university. And then I could put in a list of choices, and this was actually my first choice, HSE Saint-Petersburg. And then I got accepted, and then you also need to write a small motivation letter for HSE here, and also send them your GPA just for some formal acceptance. Yeah. But I was actually accepted through my university, and I think that you can also go here if you're a free mover. So if your university doesn't have an exchange with HSE, but then it's a bit more complicated because then you need to apply to HSE itself directly, which is sometimes a bit harder, but I have no experience with that.
And what were the further steps?
So when I got in, I had to, of course, go to all the administration. I had to write for HSE a small motivation letter. I had to get a recommendation letter from one of my teachers and upload my GPA and upload a passport picture. And then I also had to sign up for the orientation week, which was here on the 30th and the 31st, I think, the orientation days. And then, of course, I need to get a visa. Yeah. And that's always a struggle.
Yeah, was it hard?
Well, for me, I think just try to start really on time. I think a small, because my university I could go to Moscow and to St. Petersburg. And I think my home university and this university had a small miscommunication, so they placed me in Moscow first. So that took a bit longer for me to get my invitation letter, because if you want to apply for your visa, you need to get your letter of invitation.
From the university?
I thought first from the ministry, but I found out that in Europe it's mostly okay to just have the letter from the university, which in the end was for me fine as well. So I had my visa on time, so that was great.
And when was it, more or less?
So I got my visa beginning of July.
July?
Yeah.
That's early.
Yeah, for me, but it was nice for me because I went on a vacation to the US after. So if it wasn't me on time, my passport would still be at the consulate, which would have meant that I couldn't have gone on my vacation with my parents. So
but you could?
Yeah, I could now, yeah.
Right.
I started quite early, so you have to start early with preparing your documents, and that's what I recommend.
And at what time did you arrive here?
So I think I arrived here on the 28th of August, on a Wednesday. So that was like 5 days before the semester started, because I think you can only also arrive, according to visa law, you're only allowed to arrive like 6 days before the start of your semester. So I arrived on the 28th, and I met some people. Then I had orientation days on the 30th and the 31st, where they show you around the university, where you get basic information on what happens if something gets stolen, and if your visa, because your visa needs to be like prolonged, and what they do about that. And so they give you like a lot of info about the university, about the courses. And yeah,
but mostly like the official information.
Yeah, it wasn't general official. There was one fun part on Saturday morning. It was like yeah, how do you call it? You had to do all these different tasks and then make a picture of it, like a photo assignment. So dress up like Russians.
Like a quiz.
Yeah, like a game, and I don't know, be the Eiffel Tower, things like that. So yeah.
Okay. But we already got here, and before coming here, did you know what courses would you have? And like,
well, they sent me like a list with all the courses they would offer. And this list changed from time to time, because they first sent an older list and then a list that was updated to the current year. And then you could apply quite early, which was nice, for the courses online. You could fill them in, and you can just, in the LMS system, which they have here, it's like some kind of scheduling system. And then you could like, tap your courses and then place them, which is really nice, because mostly your courses need to be approved as well by your home university, which was in my case. So it's really great that you can get access to the courses quite early, so that you have time to contact your local study advisors about, hi, I'm going to choose this course, is that okay? And then once you're here, it's not that you're stuck to the course, because in the first 3 weeks you're allowed to drop it, because there were quite some issues with the scheduling, of course, which is logical, because people take courses from like, I have one course from a management bachelor, I think. Then I have some courses from the political science bachelor and a course from the political science master. So of course, all these courses, they overlap. So in the beginning, I just took way more courses than I should, and then I was like, okay, these overlap. So and then I just kicked them out.
And how many do you have now?
So I did some extra courses last year, so I don't have to take that many here. I take the Russian course, and the Russian language, and then I take 3 other ones, which is human resource management, contemporary Russian politics, and Russia and world politics, which is a master course.
Russia
in world politics.
Okay.
Which is really interesting. I like that a lot.
So not that many courses.
No, it's because last year at my home university I took Russian, and I already got 10 extra ECTS for that. So that was great for me, so I can take a bit more time here, which I like, because it also gives me more opportunities to see more of the country and to travel a bit more, and not only be focused on studying here.
And like compared to back home, do you have to study more here? Is it like different?
Well, first of all, what I want to say is different for me. Like, I need to get the credits here, but my grades are not transferred, because my high school my university has a different grading system.
Okay.
So they don't transfer the grades. So for me, that's quite relaxing, because at home I always try to get good grades, but now, it doesn't really matter, because
do you need to just pass?
I just need to pass. Yeah, and then it's okay. Because they're not included into my GPA in the end for my bachelor degree. And for me, I would say, because I take less courses, it's more chill, and also the way of teaching is quite different. It's more group work, way more presentations, and less focus on exams. That's my experience. Of course, there are exams and tests, but I haven't had many. Some of my friends have more. But at my home university, for example, we have 7 weeks, then 1 week with a lot of heavy, big exams, and then 7 weeks. And here it's more like you have a presentation, which is like 10% of your grade. Then you have this small paper, which is like 20%. So it's like all these little...
It's here.
Yeah, that's here. So it's all like small parts, which in the end build up to one grade.
And how much is the final exam?
That depends on the course, but for most of the course I have only 20 or 30%.
Oh.
So that's quite relaxing,
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have this like final week? Or?
Well, I think 2 weeks ago there was an exam week, but in that week I didn't have exams. And I only had 1 Russian test. And then there's another exam week. I think it's supposed to be between the 25th and the 31st, but the University of December. But the university is quite flexible here, so that's nice. So you're allowed to make your exams before Christmas, because some of the, I think I'm staying here with Christmas, but a lot of the international students, they of course want to go home to their families with Christmas.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to go home, you can ask the teacher, and he or she will write the exam earlier for you, and you can make it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so flexible?
That's really flexible, yeah.
Nice.
So, and also a lot of the teachers try to plan their exams. For example, my Russian teacher, she already tries to plan the exam before, because she knows that a lot of people want to go home. So.
Excuse me, and are you bachelor or master student?
I'm bachelor.
Bachelor.
The third year I graduate. Like when I come back, I write my thesis. So
Okay.
I almost.
The fun is
I'm
coming.
almost there. Yeah.
After Russian. And these things are in Russian, or it's okay?
Yeah. Well, this is even translated in English.
Right.
But like I think so. If you like, once you know like the alphabet, it's quite easy for also the person to kind of make out what it says. And yeah, the thing is you have to be French. That's what once I came here, I had the French translation. So that's the warm food, that's downstairs. But here it's relatively small, and the other university is bigger. So when I combine,
It's healthy.
but it's healthy. In general, it's healthy. Less healthy as well. But here, like.
Okay, so now about the experience itself. So maybe what could you say about your expectations before coming here? And like first, maybe now let's not talk about education.
Okay, well, what I expected, I have to say I expected something really maybe different from the people, because what I personally expected in my university, most of the people that chose Russia were people that really did Russian studies. And I met a lot of people here who actually don't like really study Russian at home, but they study business or politics, and they were also all here. That's something I didn't expect, because at home I was the only one from political science who actually went to Russia. And what I expected from, I mean, the people are really nicer than I expected at first, I have to be honest. And I think people are in general, very helpful, and especially if you try to speak some Russian to them, it really makes it a bit easier to connect with them. And yeah, I don't know, when I arrived here, I didn't have that much expectations. I was just like, okay, I'm just going into this. It will probably be a huge change. Yeah, but I met a lot of nice. Most of my friends are international, but all of the Russian friends I have, they're also like super nice, and it's really nice to talk to them, because they tell a lot about the country and things you don't necessarily know. And what I also expected was that at the university, people would be maybe a bit more careful with their opinion on the government and things like that. But here, I found that the university is actually really, really critical of the regime, and I think that's rather interesting. So yeah, it's a really interesting perspective to see as a Western person. So yeah, that's what I really like.
And what's your impression of the university in general? Like the structure and maybe the buildings?
I really like this building, because it's of course like beautifully located like on a canal. The other one is also really nice. Like the location is maybe a bit less nice, I have to say, but the building inside, it's really well. I mean, there are a lot of good facilities. The building is really big. The classrooms are spacious. So in general, that's what I really like. And like how the system works in general. I think the international office, it's the office where all the international students deal with. In general, they're quite quick in responding to your emails, and they're also quite flexible. Like when you want to walk in, or whether there's an issue. I had quite an issue with getting my student transportation card here. And something went wrong, like with putting me in the system, because my name in Russian, and they changed it around in a weird way. And then she really tried to help me, and I think that's really, that feels really supportive, because as an exchange student, sometimes with these bureaucratic things, you can get a bit lost. So it's great if people are more like supporting to you than that they're like being really mean. So no, in general, I think it's quite clear the structure of the university, and yeah.
So yeah, maybe then coming to the most interesting topic for me. So the point when you needed to move here, right? So you speak a bit of Russian, but still, I need your perspective on how is it for a foreigner to come to Russia? What issues you might face, and whether you had a buddy or somebody to support you, and how to deal with all that.
I got a buddy from the university, and I don't see her a lot now, but she helped me a lot in the beginning with getting my mobile card. And she also, because once you arrive here, you have to go to the international office for registration, and it's also what she did with us. But here it's fine because other people speak English. When the struggle becomes real, it's like, because my Russian is really like minimum. So what was an effort for me, I stayed in the dorms first, but that wasn't really my thing. I mean, I think it can happen. And then to move out of the dorms, I was like really thinking like, how am I going to do this? Because a lot of people made me a little bit scared. For example, regarding the registration, because that's what for me was really weird. Like, oh, I'm going to move somewhere and then I have to be registered everywhere I go. And in the beginning, I was a bit panicked about like, yeah, that's why I didn't get an apartment at first. Because I was like, yeah, how am I going to do this registration? What if my landlord is making a lot of issues about this? Because I want to do trips to Moscow, and then you need to, of course, be like re-registered. So, but then, yeah, I think your organization really helps a lot with that, because it's really great to have like somebody who speaks both Russian and English as in between you and your landlord, because you always know that if something happens, I have somebody to contact, which can understand me, and which also has a say in the word. And for me, it sounds a bit like because I'm telling you, but for me it was really helpful. And also other friends I heard who got the apartments via you, they're really happy with it, because it's a bit scary to just rent something from a Russian, because you have no idea what's happening, whether it's legit, because we hear all these bad stories like online.
And some of them are true.
Yeah. And you can get scammed and things like that, or you have kind of a lot of issues with your registration. And I think one thing you don't want to have in Russia is issues with your administration or with the bureaucracy, because I had that 2 years ago when I came with my mom for my tourist visa.
What happened?
Yeah, we first applied, it was our fault. We first applied at the wrong office, but it wasn't really clear on the website. And then like we were like later, the visa was delayed, everything, we had to like book our flight like 1 day later. So we had like so much stress from that, and especially when you're in Russia, you just don't want to get into any issues with the authorities, because that's also what they told me in university. What they warned us for, like, stay away from the Russian authorities. Please take other people. Please, like, make sure that you always have people in between, people who have like experience, who speak the language, who know what's happening, because otherwise it's gonna be quite hard.
And was university helpful in that sense? Did they give you all the information you might need?
Well, yeah, what the university told us in the beginning is like, of course, when you stay at the dorms, they do your registration, so that's fixed. So that's why I also decided to move into the dorms first. But they also gave us information on people who stayed in apartments, so I think that was quite nice of them, because of course they don't have to do it, but they really told people like, okay, if you're in an apartment, make sure that your registration is settled and it's okay. And also when I left the dorms, the dorm lady, she also told me, make sure that they register you at your new apartment. So they were quite considerate about that.
Okay.
So, and I think if there's a real issue, that's also what they said, you can always contact them, and they will try to help you as far as possible.
And how are the dorms, by the way?
Well, actually the dorms are not bad. Like, I really have to say, I spoke to other people, I compared that the dorms are quite good, because I think most girls only share a room with one other girl, and then you have like, with 4 of you, you share like a bathroom and a toilet, which is okay. And then the kitchen you share with 16 people, like your whole flat.
Okay.
And they were quite clean, and I was quite content. For me, the reason I moved out, because I moved out, so it's probably, is that it was just little bit further away from the center.
Really?
Yeah, it was like 40 minutes by metro. So for me, I'm only here for 4 months. I want to get most of my exchange as possible.
Yeah.
And now I live in the center, and it does allow me just to, if I, for example, have a Sunday afternoon and it's like 4:30, like when you live in the dorms, you're not going to in the center to just go shortly to the Hermitage. But now, and it's like 4, I was like, oh yeah, I can go to the Winter Palace for an hour because it's free anyway with the student card. And then I just walk around for an hour and then I go home. So I think for me that gives me a little more flexibility. But of course, it's way more expensive to live in an apartment. If you live in the dorms, it's really cheap, and that maybe gives you the opportunity to like travel more in Russia. So that's like a balance that everyone needs to choose from. Like some people really feel comfortable in the dorms. For me, I'm really an outdoor person. I didn't like the area there that much, so that's why I moved to the city center.
And how much it would be, like in the dorms or in the apartment?
In the dorms, I think for 4 months I had to pay 80 euros. So I don't know what that is in rubles, but it was
6,000 rubles.
yeah, it was not a lot. It was like really cheap. It was less than 100 euros. That's what I remember.
Okay.
For 4 months. And then of course with an apartment I now pay, I share it with 2 other flatmates who are really nice, and we all 3 of us pay 30,000 a month, so we pay 90,000 the 3 of us. And then I do think that we have one of the best apartments in in town when it comes to location, because I talk to some people whose apartments are a bit cheaper. And I think it also depends, because I also know a girl and she's Russian, and then she lives with some international students, and then she arranged it herself. So of course, if you're Russian, it might be, because I also, when they notice you're international, it also gets more expensive sometimes. But in general, I'm content. Like, of course, it's maybe not really cheap for here, but compared to where I'm from at home, I pay less here than I pay at home. So
for a room there?
For my room in Holland, yeah,
Really?
it's more expensive.
And so what budget would you recommend for an exchange student, like here? How much you need per month?
Per month, that depends on how much you party.
I know.
So now let's say I party like once a week, once or twice, and I don't eat out a lot. We cook a lot at home, so that just changed the balance a bit. So well, if you stay at the dorms, you'll probably need like for food, like I think with 100 euros a week or something, you'll be okay. But I think it's really hard, it's so personal. And of course for me, I add like 400 to that because I have to pay the rent. So it's like 900. But I have to say, like sometimes you do a trip and then you also pay more. But of course, like going to Russia is not the same as going to the US or something. So like your housing and groceries, they're cheap, but not that cheap. I think with general going out for dinner, going out for like drinks, things like that, that's like way cheaper. I mean, here you pay 380 for a cocktail, which is like 5 euros, and at home I pay 10 if I go drinking cocktails for a night. So in Holland I never do that because it's just too expensive. So, and it's also like I'm on exchange, so your lifestyle changed a bit. I'm like quite like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy my time here. And I'm maybe spending a bit too much money, but when I come back home, I will start working again. So.
Right, and we all do that.
Yeah. Getting my metro card. Then I just walked in and told them like, hi, I already emailed you, but I also want to. And she was like, okay. Well, she printed like a screenshot of my name in the system so that I could show it to the lady there. So she could find me in the system, so it's really nice. So it's great. Yeah, that was really cool.
My university, they just say, we don't have time. So, did the university participate in your, how to say, induction, or like, the first time here?
Well, they did show this really nice graph on culture shock, like you're first on your honeymoon phase, and then you're going down, and you get sad, and then you're going. And then you start adapting again to the new culture. So they did touch upon it, which I think is good. For me, I had a culture shock. It's mostly in the way of like, just sometimes the way, your life goes really fast here because you're with a lot of people you don't know, and you meet a lot of new people, and yeah, you have a different language like all the time coming towards you, and it was hard for me that sometimes when you ask basic things, people don't understand you because they don't speak English.
Does it happen often?
Well, not. I think in restaurants or something you shouldn't have to worry. But sometimes with things, for example, when I had to get that new public transportation card, I can try it in Russian, but then sometimes they start speaking really, really quick, and then I'm like, and with things like that, it's sometimes because then you really want to know where it's going all right. You know, when I order food in a restaurant and I make mistakes in my Russian, I don't care because they will understand what I eat in the end. But like if you like do like something like your public transportation card, you kind of want to know that things are going the right way because, yeah, with me it went wrong like a few times, and so I was like, okay. And if they then don't speak Russian, that's a bit hard, and also with administrative.
In the metro, right?
Yeah, and also with administrative things, it can be a bit. I went to the agency to pay to get the cleaning lady a few weeks ago, and then I started speaking in Russian, and his English was really bad, so we were really like, okay. So that with things like that, it's a bit hard, but it's like not a massive thing. I think what you have to be careful of is, I quite like winter, but the weather, it's cold. And of course you really notice it already, it starts getting darker. And I think that's also what they want for here, because that's of course, especially maybe when you're from like, I don't know, south of France, Spain. I mean, in Holland we're used to rain. So it's maybe a bit warmer, but we're used to rain and shitty weather. But you might not really be used to it that much when you're more from the south. So that's something I would take account of. And yeah, that you just, that you just have to be careful with people. Like, I don't think it's really dangerous here. I feel actually quite safe. But because before I came here, people were making jokes like, "Oh, be careful for a Russian man," but actually I don't really have had that many bad encounters myself. But I mean, it's different. I mean, you always have to be careful. Like, don't go out at night on your own, you know, things like that. But it's like, but that's everywhere you go. And it's also when I live at home, I also have sometimes crazy guys screaming at me, and that's also what you can have here. So, but in general, I mean, there's a culture shock, but I think it's more like just in a way that for me my life changed from just moving to Russia, that you're like with totally different people and just a lot of things coming towards you. And I also think what really matters is that I just had a really nice group of friends, and that we just do it. Yeah, mostly international, also some Dutch. That we just do a lot of things together, and I think as long as you like stay connected to people, you also don't really have time to feel like sad. Of course, you can have your days that you're like, I really want to go home now and eat some food from home. Because in the beginning I was really struggling with finding like a nice supermarket because I really love cooking. And then I went to the supermarket and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this. Oh, they don't have it. And then it was just like, yeah, that's just a thing that I could sometimes get annoyed by, but yeah.
And now where do you go?
I go actually to like Bergrestok, Prisma. I go to like different ones, and then I just grab the things from everyone what they have, and I really try to think about what I'm gonna make, and then yeah, it's fine. So yeah.
But you could find those things in the end or not?
Well, some things and some things are also more expensive, and like at home, like especially like exported products like cheese, and I make a risotto with chorizo, and that's really expensive here. So, but that's probably because of the sanctions. And that's like okay, that's really. But some things are really cheap, like the vegetables, they are way cheaper than at home. So. But in the beginning I was really unaware of that, so I was like looking for my room, and I was like, where is it? I was like, it's behind the other door. Okay. But yeah, in general, it's and there's like a lot of paintings.
And like for a newcomer next semester, what would you recommend? Like in case you don't speak Russian, would you take your Russian friend, or how would you solve those things?
If you don't speak Russian, I think at the university they offer a language course, and I think I would take it because I think once you start learning, if you already know the alphabet, it already becomes quite a little bit easier, because then at least you can kind of, a lot of words in Russian, if you like are able to read them into the Latin alphabet, if you know what I mean, you kind of, you don't speak language at all, but can easily more easily make up what they mean. So for me, that really worked, and but I wouldn't worry them. I mean, it's also nice to learn a language to know. Like sometimes if you're walking the street and people scream to you, that you know what they're screaming at you. It makes you feel more safe. Like for example, I in the beginning had quite a lot at the Yandex taxi, couldn't find me, and then for some reason my app is in Russian, I don't know, and he starts calling me, and he's like, "Good day, good day," and I'm like, "Yeah, good day is this," so and it did help for me to speak a little bit Russian because you can at least like explain left, right, I'm here, and it's easy to know like this basic Russian. But if you don't speak Russian, I really wouldn't be scared. Like really, don't stop yourself from going here, because if you don't speak Russian, you can easily go to Saint Petersburg, because in general most people speak English. I think if you're considering going to Siberia, you might change your mind. But in Saint Petersburg, and I think also Moscow, it's fine.
Have you been there?
I've been, yeah, for 3 days.
A couple of years ago or now?
No.
Now?
Yeah.
And how do you like it compared to St. Petersburg?
Yeah, I'm definitely more St. Petersburg person.
Mm.
Yeah. But I know that for people that's really personal. I like St. Petersburg because it's maybe a bit more European, a bit more, I don't really expect the vibe is a bit more calm. The vibe feels a bit more friendly. The city is smaller, and like for me, it's 5 million people. Like in Holland, we don't even have a city with more than 1 million people. But still, this city feels smaller. It feels more a bit home-ish. And it feels like I can, I know Nevsky, I know where all the main areas are. And in Moscow, I did like it a lot, and it's a different, it's maybe more the real Russia, some people would say. But for me, it's too big. Like I don't know how many million people, but a lot. And I think St. Petersburg is also more beautiful, but yeah. That's also personal. But I did like Moscow. I mean, they have quite cool clubs, and like they have really like these nice, like the skyscraper area was really cool, and the Red Square, of course. And I would definitely visit it when you're here. I mean, you definitely have to go there. But I'm happy at just St. Petersburg to study, because it's just a bit smaller and a bit more. Calmer. It feels more calmer. It feels more like home for me. So. Yeah.
And would you like to travel somewhere else, or what are your plans?
So I have to check, because I'm not really sure till when my visa will be prolonged. But I'm thinking of maybe going to Kazan. And I also really want to go to Helsinki, which is of course Finland, but it's quite close. I haven't been before. Okay. So when I get my multiple entry visa, I can go there. And then I also really recommend just traveling around the neighborhood in St. Petersburg, because there are so many of these small, cute towns. I went to Kronstadt, and I also want to go to Viborg and Kachina, I think. So, and all these places are like really nice, and especially, of course, the big cities you should also go. But once you're like, if you ever go back to Russia, you might go to the big cities again, but you'll never just go to like Viborg when you're here for vacation. No. So that's why it's really like fun. I do it a lot with a friend. We just do like day trips, and then we just also with another friend. We want to go to Viborg, but we mischecked the trains. So then we were like, okay, what are we gonna do? So we just got into the first train randomly to somewhere, and then we ended up like in some village.
Really?
And we had no idea where we were, and we were like, okay. And then we checked out Rapino was closed, so we went to Rapino, and we walked around in the park there, and we went to the beach. It was really cold, but we walked on the beach, and it was really fun because it felt like we were together and we had just had no clue. But that was a really nice day because we were like so clueless, and we were just like, okay, we're just gonna discover this, and it really felt like we were getting off the beaten track, as they say in the Lonely Planet. So yeah, that was really nice. I really liked that, because then you feel like you're more into like getting the real Russia, you know?
At least to see the big...
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I went to a dacha for a weekend as well.
To a dacha?
Yeah.
Was it like the university thing, or?
Yeah, from GSOM, yeah, from the...
Did you meet some local people, or?
No, it was, well, I think it was more like a vacation park. But I mean, we did meet some Russians who, at 1 o'clock at night, dressed up as ghosts, decided to crash our party, and they brought vodka, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna join this party." And we were like, "Okay."
Really?
Yeah, and they just.
Was it okay?
Yeah, there were only 3 of them, and they brought drinks. And they're like, "Yeah, have some vodka." So that was really funny.
All right. Just to sum up, what the exchange in Russia is?
I think exchange in Russia is a lot of fun. It's also, of course, studying, and it's getting to know more about Russia from Russia's perspective, instead of getting to know more about Russia from the Western perspective, in my case. And that's what I really, really like. I really get to know how the people think of political situations that happen here from their perspective, which is really interesting. And then for the fun, it's just also, it's a lot of partying, it's a lot of meeting new people, it's a lot of visiting places. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.